Hello YouTube. People have been asking me if I could post a video or a series of videos for people who are just starting off into the craft. So this is going to be the first of many videos that I'm going to be posting here, basically talking about the basics of magic and the basics of witchcraft. Now in this video I'm going to be talking about altar tools. Now these altar tools that I'm going to be showing you on this video are basically the altar tools that I use in my ritual practice. The first one being the pentagram. Now the pentagram represents the 5 elements, so earth, air, fire, water, and then the 5th element as being spirit. What I do with this pentagram, I usually take it and I place it right in the center of my altar, and as I said before, it represents the element, so I set that in the center. The next altar tool that I use is the Athame. I use this in my ritual practice too, and I use this to direct energy. I use it if I'm calling on the god and the goddess, if I'm calling on the elements, and if I'm actually casting a circle. When I cast a circle, I use this to draw the circle when I cast it. So this is the altar tool that I use for that. And this actually represents fire if you're using that in your rituals. And it represents fire because you're directing your will out into the universe. So this is the altar tool that I use for fire. Another common thing that I use in my ritual practice or my altar is incense burner. And incense burner of course represents air. And I use that when I'm saying different prayers or when I'm doing invoking the god and the goddess. I will have some incense burning, and the philosophy behind that is the smoke carries the prayers up to the gods. So this is one of the things. I also set this in the middle of the altar, right in between the god and the goddess. Another thing I use on my altar is the wand. This is a wand that I use. It has 2 quartz crystals on the end. And since this is a wooden wand, it represents fire, and it represents earth, and it represents the wheel also. So this is a very nice wand that I got I would say about 10 years ago. And I usually set this on my altar, and you can use this if you're calling the god and the goddess, or if you're casting a spell and you're trying to direct your energy. You can use it that way also. So it's similar to an Athame for using it for directing your energy or your will out. So this is my wand. I love it. This is my chalice, and of course chalice represents water. Each of the working tools that I have represents one of the 4 elements. So this is the one I use for water, and I like it because it has a shape of a skull on it. And I actually got this from Halloween USA, and I dug it so much that I bought it and I use it year round. And I just like the fact that it has a skull on it, so I set that on my altar too. Another one of my working tools that I use is a little cauldron, and I use this for burning things. So say if I'm doing a spell and I'm using parchment paper and I want to burn it, I set it inside the cauldron here and I burn it. Or I also use it, say if I'm burning charcoal, if I'm casting a circle and I'm casting it with fire, I usually would set charcoal in here and let it burn and go around the circle with the cauldron. So a cauldron can be used for a lot of different things. But that's what I use the cauldron for. Next item is the bell. I usually ring the bell 9 times when I cast my circle. And it's just a way of awakening your mind and sort of setting the tone for any rituals that you do. So this is the bell. This is one of the bells that I use, and I can't remember exactly where I got this. I think I got it from an antique shop, but I really like it. Actually, the top of it's sort of loose. I had to screw it on here, but I usually ring it 9 times before I cast my circle and whatnot. And it's also, it can be used for clearing the air. So I associate bells with air because of the vibration that comes out from it. Now, also, one of the things that you want to place on your altar are symbols of the god and the goddess. This is one symbol that I use. This is Osiris here. I have that on one of my altars. I have a couple of altars, by the way. This is one of the items I have on one of my altars. This would be the god. The symbol of the goddess that I have on my altar is a little bit too big. I just don't feel like bringing it down for this video. But this is a little small symbol of the goddess. And I also have this on my altar too. And this is the snake goddess. The goddess with the 2 snakes in her hand. And I really like this because this is a very powerful image. So most people who follow the craft, they will have some type of representation of the god and the goddess on their altar. So these are 2 of the ones that I use. Now for the ancestors, because I like to include the ancestors in the rituals that I do. I have a skull. This is the skull that I use. I have a skull on each one of my altars. So this is just one of them, and I got this from Nor Leather here in Michigan. So I saw this skull and I was like, wow, this is really cool. How much is it? And I think it only cost me like $10, which is really a steal. So if those of you who live in Michigan, and if you go to Nor Leather, you might be able to find one of these skulls there, and they're usually really cheap. So hopefully you can get it for 10, maybe 15, I don't know. But I use this on my altar. I set it in the middle of the altar, and it represents my ancestors, and it is one of the ways that I connect with them. So those are basically the altar tools that I use. I usually set my altar in the west because that is the portal that I use as far as communicating with the ancestors, because the west represents the realm of the dead. And if you're trying to call in your ancestors, that's probably the best place to place your altar. Most Wiccans or witches, they place their altar in the east. I think that's the traditional way, or the recent traditional way to place your altar. And I have altars placed in the east also. And usually if I'm working with my coven, we place the altar in the east. Also, another traditional way altar placement is to place your altar in the north, because the north represents the earth, and it represents the goddess or Mother Earth. So a lot of people who practice the craft would set their altar in the north. I like to set mine in the west. That's just me. Alright, so that's just basically how I use my altar tools in casting circles, and that's basically the basics of altar tools and what they're used for on your altar. There's many variations. I don't think I missed anything here. If I did, I'll do a part 2 of this video. But basically that's how I set up my altar. Now if you read a lot of books, they talk about certain placements, like you're supposed to place this on this side of the altar, you're supposed to place this on this side of the altar, and you know, it's mandatory that you do this or that or whatever. I think that whatever resonates with you, if you feel that you should set a symbol at this particular point of the altar, and if that's what feels right for you, then that's what you should do. So it's up to you. Books are good guidelines on how you should set up your altar or altar placement or whatever, but they're not the final word. the final word is basically you and your intuition and how you feel the altar would best serve you. So you are the final say on how you set up your altar. Alright, so this, as I said, is the first installment of many videos that I'm going to be placing here on this channel for those of you who are just starting off into the craft. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. So until next time, love is the law, and as always, peace.